Welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast, where adversity meets ambition and setbacks become setups for something greater. I'm your host, Mark Crandall. After walking away from a $5.1 million construction sale, enduring loss, betrayal, a season of darkness, and a pile of financial devastation, I came back to the one thing I can't shake, helping people live on purpose. This podcast isn't about chasing dollars, it's about chasing calling. Every week, we shine light on creators, entrepreneurs, and artists who refuse to quit. People who kept moving forward when life told them to sit down. If you've ever been knocked down, counted out, or told no, you're in the right place. Because here, we turn pain into power and purpose into impact. Let's dive into this week's episode. I remember a really powerful conversation that I had with Sal, in which he was on the fence of whether he was going to continue to lead this program for this man that he had been leading for quite some time, or if he was going to shoot off and go travel the world and explore what he believed he had been called to do. And I'm happy to report to you, Purpose Chasers, that Sal's going to tell the tale of shooting off and following his heart. And it's a really, really beautiful tale. He's one of the most beautiful humans that I know. And we're going to have the opportunity to have him lead Breathwork inside of the community at some point in the near future. Sal, thank you so much for making time to come on, man. I'm really, really grateful to have you on. And I really can't believe you've never come on the podcast to share your story.
Mark, I had to travel the world in order to gain some stories so that I could share them. So thank you for that introduction, man. Appreciate it.
I don't think you do. You have a lot of stories coming out of the gate. I mean, you're one of the first things that intrigued me was your adolescent commercials and your adolescent TV appearances. Can we kick this interview off with that? How did you get into the world of acting and or doing commercials at a young age?
This is fun because I don't really get to talk about this that much, this part of my story, but it's actually a big formative experience in my life. So let's talk about my child acting career. I guess I'm not a burned out child actor like so many. So let's see. My father was a television personality in Peru since he was 19, 20 years old. Like he started on radio, back when they played records on the radio, and then he started his TV career. And I looked up to that a lot. I mean, I remember the first time when I was with him at the mall in Lima, and somebody came up to him and asked him for an autograph. They were like, "Oh, you are Mario Liberti. Like, nice to meet you. Can we please have an autograph?" This was before selfies or camera phones were even a thing. And that was like, whoa, my dad's famous. Like the first time I really sort of understood it, and it created this, I want that too, right? Every young boy sees his father do something and that he admires, and it's like, oh, like I would like to do something similar. And then we moved to the States shortly after, when I was 8 years old, and my mom decided that it would be a good idea to have us go for commercials, right? She got us the little comm cards and the photo shoot, and we would go to castings consistently, like probably at least once a week. I loved it because every time we had a casting was, I'm getting off school early because the casting.
I was wondering. I always wonder if like kids are like forced into this. So I'm glad you said that you enjoyed it. So you get off.
Yeah,
school,
no, I had a great time. My sister had a great time too. Though she, I think, a little bit less than I did. But I always appreciated movies and cinematography and being on set. And so we'd get off school early, we'd go to these castings every week, and it was mostly in Miami. So lots of Spanish-speaking roles and all these different things. And being on set, because we booked a lot. I booked a lot myself, and then my family, we used to go together because it was mom, dad, older son, younger sister, like the complete sort of picture perfect family. We did like Disney Cruise Line, Carnival, DirecTV. I did a KFC, Google, like so many different things. And I loved being on set because one, I loved the composition of a shot, how they're lighting the room. I used to never hang out in the dressing room. I would always kind of hang out off the side of the set. And the snacks table. The snacks table is like undefeated for a kid on set because you have unlimited Welch's fruit snacks. You have unlimited candy and you always get a food truck with catering, and so like it's a blast. And I think that one that gave me a passion for uh, cinematography and composition, even more so in directing. And so now that I create my own content, I'm in there with the tripods and the lighting, and I want to make sure that it's edited properly, and it gives me that eye that I really appreciate about good content. And also, it helped me be comfortable in front of camera, be able to manage my state in camera, be able to speak. But what's interesting is that when skipping ahead to when I was 23, 24 years old, and after I had quit this job that we just talked about at the beginning of the podcast in your interview, I moved to Los Angeles. I had taken probably 3 or 4 years off of acting. I kind of stopped when I was 18, went off to college, and I got busy with other things. But I had never done any theater acting, and I've never done any actual roles, like sort of character acting. I've only done commercial acting, which is just motions, right? It's just like smile, pretend you're playing a video game, or cheer on with a football game, or eat this thing and be in this little scene. And it's very low key, low maintenance, right? It's just very short stuff. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I started to take these acting classes. I went to like the Anthony Meidel acting school and the Groundlings improv theater. That's where like Will Ferrell and Melissa McCarthy got their start. And then I realized that I don't like acting. I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't like this like process, and it's acting is a very um, it can be a very spiritual experience. This sort of experience of undoing yourself and leaving who you think you are and adopting somebody else's character and mannerisms and emotions. Though it's emotionally and energetically exhausting. And I realized at that point that I was wait like I thought I wanted to be an actor in Los Angeles, which is very cliche, but actually not at all. Very much enjoyed, and I was still learning how to be myself. And it reminds me of I don't know if you ever read the book or listened to the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. It's like his sort of loose autobiography collection of stories. And what they told him is that when he got the role in Dazed and Confused, right? All right, guy. He was like, oh, like this, I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna go to Hollywood. Because he originally was hired for one little scene, and then it turned into a bigger role on set because people loved it. And then as soon as he met, I think his agent or his manager, they said, "You're not ready. You look too hungry. Like you look like you want it too much. You're not cool. You're not embodying yourself." And they said, "No, don't move to Hollywood. Like go do your thing. Go travel. Go live your life. Really get to know who you are, and come back when you're ready. Come back when you don't have that like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed face of like, please hire me. Like I promise I'll be a good actor." And so that brings me back to that, because in the acting experience, it really was like the impulse, the push that I needed to say, okay, I'm done pretending to be all these other things, and I need to find a path that I can be myself in and help people in it, because that was always a calling. And so to bring it all together, when we met, I was doing sales for this mastermind, and I had just come fresh off of attending and crewing a bunch of Tony Robbins event, and it was like I was living and breathing and digesting personal development, right? How to win friends and influence people, Think and Grow Rich, the Tony books, the seminars, the podcasts, and of course with the individual that we're talking about, this guy, his book and his course, and I was digesting it all, and I was just 23 years old, and I had just graduated as well, university, and I just didn't know how to apply it all. I had all the tools, I had all the strategies, I was around the right people, and there was still a part of me that couldn't find a why. I was like, okay, but why should I do all of this? Why should I optimize my day and wake up at 5 in the morning and, sacrifice this and that and start to invest in real estate? And because there was a lot of the coaching that I was getting was like, you need to, live on the bare minimum, invest it all, and build yourself for financial freedom, which was what everybody else was doing in this mastermind, right? The whole thing was become a millionaire, achieve financial freedom, leverage assets, build your real estate portfolio, however you wanted to do it. But real estate was like the main gig there. there was no why. There was no like emotional connection as to why did I need to do this. And there was a part of me that resisted for, I guess, the proper reason. And so when I got to that point where you and I had that conversation, where I said, well, I'm not happy here. I'm, 10 months out of university. I've been working my ass off for this. I'm not getting paid very well. So not feeling well compensated for my efforts. I need to go out and find something, or at least just get to experience life, because I feel like I've just been doing what everybody else has been telling me to do, or living this life that I'm supposed to live. And that's when, I told you, I said, I'm going to Europe. I'm out. So I went to Europe I booked a one-way ticket to Madrid from Miami, and I had no idea when I was going to come back. I told everybody I'm moving to Europe. I'm moving to Spain. And I'm not really moving to Spain, but I could have. And when I got there, spent some time in Madrid and Valencia and Amsterdam, did another Tony event in Amsterdam, Business Mastery. I went to Prague and all these different places. And the number one lesson that I got from that, and I love telling this story because I think it could serve a lot of people, is when I got to Europe and I started to visit hostel after hostel and meeting person after person, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares where you went to school, who your parents are, what you studied, like who you grew up with. Like, it's not like, oh, do you know this person from this school, whatever. No, it doesn't matter. It only matters who you are in that moment, in that hostel, in that bar, in that restaurant, or in that park, wherever you are. And it's just like, okay, so who are you now? What's up? Oh, hey, I'm Salvatore. And we're only going to be hanging out or meeting for a day, maybe 2 days, and then see ya, you're gone. And you do that over and over and over again for 4 months, traveling Europe or wherever you're traveling in the world, and you start to shed these layers of who you were expected to be, which behavior was expected of you, who you think you are based on what your parents told you, based on where you went to school, based on what your friends are doing, and you just start to really become yourself. And so people talk, especially young people, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Europe to find myself. Like, you're not like you yourself, you're not in Europe, right? Your true self, your purpose isn't somewhere else. It's about undoing those layers and like uncovering who you're not. It's a process of elimination. Our good friend Ian Lobas, shout out to Ian. He said to me this quote, and it's been repeated many times. It's like Michelangelo, when asked about the David, they said, how did you make the David? Well, I removed the pieces of marble in that stone that weren't the David. And then the David appeared. It was always inside. So, similar process. You spend your youth, your high school, your college, listening to everybody telling you who you think you should be. And then I guess you start to undo that stuff if you're lucky enough and have the opportunity to do so, which I did. And I loved it because that really set me on the path. And that was just before COVID. And so COVID hits, and I said, I started to do a lot of yoga. I started to do a lot of Kundalini yoga, and I said, I love breath work. I'm loving this meditation stuff. And it's starting to become this bridge for me to not just do personal development, but embody it and embody these states through this peace that you can find in these more subtle practices. And it also kickstarted a journey of healing for me. I was in a lot of pain physically, and I had to go to physical therapy and a lot of yoga, a lot of massage and Reiki and all these different things. But it was, oh, there's all this stuff that's not quite sitting well in my body and in my energy and in my nervous system. I need to do this. And then it kind of melted both of them together. It was like, oh, I can share breath work, I can share meditation, I can share these practices, but with a neuro-linguistic programming background, with a personal development background, with the inspiration of how does Tony Robbins guide his closed eye processes? What kind of energy does he show up with? And the kind of certainty and the kind of business practices as well that he teaches through Business Mastery. And I learned through the sales principles that I learned through that job. And so it wasn't just, oh, I'm getting into the holistic vibe. I'm all spiritual and stuff. Let me help people, which I see a lot of, especially I saw a lot of in Los Angeles, and through extension, you see that in Bali and Tulum and Miami and all these hotspots for spiritual entrepreneurs and spiritual tourists. So I very much appreciated what all of those experiences, the acting, the sales, the personal development, and then to, with the cherry on top, the esoteric, the yoga, the plant medicine, and all that stuff gave to me, because it feels like it gave me a really nice foundation for everything that I'm doing now, and not, go into a space which I've seen a lot of, and it's everybody's process is different and everybody's on their own journey, but I see a lot of like, I share like so much spiritual stuff and then I have an absolute crash, people that go through these existential things. And for me, it's just been sort of a steady rise through the process, um, and I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. So thank you for the space and to allow me to tell that whole story.
And I'm glad I asked about your child acting. You got uncomfortable when I asked the question. I'm like, dang it, did I just bomb this? But like it was one of the first things that drew me to you, because I just in my head would imagine that would be so hard. And anytime you were queued up to talk, or you had a talking point inside of this community that we were both working, you were like always right on, spot on. It looked like you'd rehearsed your lines. I mean, you just like when you can just show up, like you just showed up in such a way, so pure and clear in whatever role you needed to be in. I was like, man. So I wanted to ask the question because it surely molded who you are today.
Thank you. It was a media training for you.
So, yeah, media training. That is what it is called. So, Sal, through this inquiry of shedding self, or this path of shedding self, I mean, I followed your journey, so I've seen you really, you started practicing breath work and yoga, and in my eyes, it seemed like it progressed for you really quickly into a calling to teach, facilitate, and lead. And you've been doing that for quite some time. Was it a slower path than that, or did you have resistance to leading this, or did you just embrace this as, maybe what you had been called to do all along?
It was a natural progression. I, at that moment in my life, I was already looking to serve or coach or help people in some way. Being inspired by Tony Robbins, I was like, okay, I want to contribute to people's growth and to their awakening. And it all happened within like 6 months. I get to LA, I meet some new friends. We start experimenting with mushrooms and LSD, and I, instead of just like tripping out and running around, I would actually say, hey, do you guys want to, especially when the pandemic started at the very beginning, I said, hey, you guys want to come over to my house, or we'll go to the beach and we'll take these mushrooms and we want to meditate or chant mantras or do some breathing techniques. And they're like, yeah, I'm super into it. And when I started to do that, I would guide them in my house or wherever we were. And I'd get the feedback of like, hey man, like you have a really nice voice. Like you have got nice cadence. Like you're good at this. And I learned from, listening to Tony, listening to other guided meditations, our buddy Nick Spone, who he's a really good hypnotist. And I said, ooh, like, okay, if I'm getting this feedback, I feel like I'm good at this. Right away, the pandemic started, and I was hired to work to recruit teachers for this online Zoom virtual school, like a wellness school, everything online. And it was like Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., yoga, sound healing, conscious conversations, yoga, like I said yoga twice, breath work, just like a schedule every single day of these things. And we were recruiting these teachers, and I said like, well, I want to be a teacher. I don't want to just like recruit these guys. I feel like I'm really good at this. And that's when it didn't last very long. This Zoom school, it lasted for maybe a month till the founder realized that like making a free Zoom school and paying people all this much, that zero revenue model, didn't make any sense. And so I said, okay, I'm going to teach online. The world's locked down. I can at least just show up and teach maybe one person, maybe 10 people. And so I almost sentenced myself to teaching twice a week. I think it was Tuesday and Thursday for an hour online. I would, put out the invites on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere I could. and just to practice. I just wanted to practice. It was free. I didn't charge anybody anything. I accepted donations or whatever people wanted to Venmo me, but I just wanted the practice. And that required me showing up each week, required me researching the topic that I was talking about, because 30 minutes of theory, I would talk about maybe 30 minutes about chakras or breathing techniques, and then we'd actually practice something for the last 30 minutes. So it was a lot of learn something, learn enough to teach it, and then guide people in a closed eye process. So just doing that over and over again, probably for about 6 or 7 months, gave me the confidence to, when the world opened up, I said, okay, I'm going to host my very first pop-up event. And we did that with a breathwork and sound healing experience. One of my best friends in LA, she's an amazing Brazilian sound healer. We did our first event on the beach in Malibu, in Topanga Beach, and a whole 4 people came. And then we did it again the next month, and 11 people came. And then we did it again the next month, and holy shit, we got 25 people here. And it just kept rolling and rolling. And I fell in love with guiding people through this process of what's known as holotropic breathwork, which I learned in the span of these 6 months. And I said, okay, I love breathing, I love pranayama, I love functional stuff, but I also love cathartic experiences and being able to give people this, to sow the seed of consciousness, of giving people an experience that's often the very first time they've had an experience with a state of consciousness that's not the normal waking settings of your brain, call it that. And so, because I was very passionate about, I still am passionate about plant medicine, though I knew that I didn't have the skills yet, or the blessing, say, for each plant medicine to just freely facilitate. And a lot of that happens in LA. It's like, oh, come over to my house, we'll drink ayahuasca. And it's like, or no, like that's just not the right way to do it. And I saw how this breathwork could be that medicine for people. And I just ran with it. I was like, okay, here we go. We're starting my breathwork career right away. And I was blessed to be able to do it during the pandemic, when, they were financially, they were giving out like unemployment. And so I was like, okay, I've got some of these costs covered. I can focus on this and not have the challenge to, maybe holding down a full-time job and having to build something on the side. And then when do I make the jump? When do I burn the boats? All this stuff. It was just from the beginning, I'm going it. We're doing it. And it felt very aligned, because it was this breakthrough experience that really allowed people to see themselves and feel their emotions, go into their trauma, and come out the other side lighter, with deeper insights and having processed these emotions more consciously. And ultimately, like, that's what I love, and that's part of my calling, to help people and contribute to that expansion and that ascension of consciousness. So that's the path. And it all happened, like I said, within 6 months to a year. And then I was just doing full-time events, because I felt like that was the way that I could help people the most. I did some coaching on the side. I had a couple of one-on-one coaching clients, but it just wasn't, I didn't love it. I didn't enjoy it. And if I'm not excited about something, I probably won't do it.
Won't do it long term anyway.
Yeah.
So what has this business turned into? Like, what can you explain to me and to the Purpose Chasers what it is you're now doing? I know what you're doing to some degree because I follow you, but I don't know if we crossed paths, Purpose Chasers, and Sal and I were in conversations about possibly collaborating on marketing work, and I was moving in too fast of a speed for what Sal was receiving, and or it just energetically just did not align at the time. And I was curious. I've asked Megan several times since we've talked about you coming on. Have you gotten your online trainings going and or classes?
No, we shut that down.
Shut it down. It did get going and it got shut down. So I have no clue, Purpose Chasers, what Sal's doing other than leading the events.
So when we talked about launching this virtual breathwork studio,
And I
and
had
it was,
no clue that you had this other studio launching experience of like a month live. I had no clue that you had that before. so that you were
Oh,
coming into these conversations with me with that in the background. So I was chuckling in my head, like that would have been good intel for me.
no, definitely had experience with that and building that online platform. But the real reason why I shut it down, it was, well, one, my heart wasn't into it. It became a chore. And because I've been called to serve the Latin American market, and this was in English, and it was relying on the previous work that I had done, which was travel California, travel in Florida and Europe, where that's been a great experience to help build up the foundation and the expertise that I have in a lot of the content and just being able to create a backing of my work. But as soon as for everybody listening, I was born in Lima, Peru, and now I live there again.
Most people
So
watch nowadays, but yeah, if you are just listening and you don't have video, right.
so I'm Peruvian, and I was born in Peru. My family immigrated to the United States in 2004 when I was 8 years old. And 20 years later, I moved back to Peru. So, as they say, I went back to where I came from, and willingly. And it's been one of the most amazing experiences to connect with my roots and understand that my place to serve isn't perhaps all the time here in the States or in English. It's actually in Spanish, in my first language, in a market that serves over 20 different countries versus just the States. And in a market that's expanding because people are continuing to wake up.
I would have never thought of it like that. In 20, instead of just the United States, you would think, yeah, that just shifted my perspective when you said that. And I guess it's very powerful to me to niche down. And if you don't know what niching down is, it's a buzzword in business, or and especially online business, of getting really, really granular on who your ideal client is. And when you have an ideal client that is, the LA girl who wants to be in breathwork classes with the good looking man, or like that stereotype, that model will scale. Like it will scale. You know what I mean? It'll go up and up and up. So I'm curious, inside of this, when did you, because you were making content, like I know that you were making content, recording videos and such to reach both English and the market that you've been called to. So yeah, I'm curious what the moment was or how the moment came about in which you were like, no, 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 no. I'm going all in on Latin America where I've been called to serve.
The two moments.
2 months.
2 moments when the virtual school wasn't taking off in English,
Mm.
which I have a great following and I have a great community, but people just weren't asking for it. Maybe they'd, oh, do you have a class here and there, like one time that I could do, but not something consistent. And there's a saturation in the market right now with all these different things. Just basic macroeconomics. If you've ever taken a macroeconomics course in high school, you can understand that, or college. And then two, this past year, 2025, I hosted 2 retreats in English for people coming from abroad. And the sales sucked. I couldn't sell it. I tried ads, I tried emails, made content. I reached out to people. You know how I know how to do outbound.
Yeah. For those of you listening, like
sales.
Sal's like, yeah, he's top tier. He's very skilled. He knows how to write copy. He knows how to run a sales call. Like, yeah. So it's blowing me away. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had the June retreat had 2 people, and my October retreat had 1 person. And thankfully, this one person was a buddy of mine that I went to high school with. And I said, dude, nobody else signed up. You and me, we're going on an adventure. Fuck the itinerary. And we had an absolute blast. But when the universe shows you resistance and it's like, hey, this is clearly not working despite your best efforts. I went and I sought out retreat sales coaching, from these programs that are like, oh, do you want to sell your retreat? Blah, blah, blah. Right. I went to those webinars and I did those things. And I said, oh, it's not here. Not over here. And so the next year, 2026, is going to have retreats as well, but they're going to be for Latin America, for Peruvians specifically in Peru. Because the idea is not there's so many people bringing, they're doing their yoga retreats in Costa Rica, in Peru, in Tulum, and all these different Brazil, all these different places, and they're bringing in a ton of people. Great, but I'm not outside of Peru, sort of filling the funnel of people that want to come. I'm in Peru, and the mission is not bring everybody else to Peru. It's thread this fabric of Peruvians reconnecting with their essence, with the wisdom, and with the land that we were born on. Because there's so much disconnection, there's so much not taking care of the nature and exploiting the resources, and fear around indigenous traditions, indigenous medicines, or just the simple, family generational healing of people's trauma that is all over the world. But I said, oh, I'm not being called to serve the gringos that want to come. I'm being called to serve the Peruvians that are here, that are desperate for this, that are asking for this. And that right there was like, okay, I'm done hitting my head on the wall over here with English, with the US market. I'm going to focus solely on the Peruvian market and the Latin American market in general. But it's an expanding market. And today, what I'm focusing on to actually answer your question is hosting breathwork ceremonies monthly in Lima, Peru. We just signed a contract with a beautiful 5-star hotel to host all of our events there. So now we can have 50 plus, 60 plus people at the ceremonies, and working on three parts of the business. We got the monthly breathwork ceremonies, which are holotropic style breathwork ceremonies. We've got corporate wellness, so corporate programs for different companies, whether it's breathing for anxiety, stress, creativity, more energy in the workplace. And then we've got the retreats that are in the Sacred Valley of Peru that are supporting the local conservation of these areas. So there's a lot of different mining interests and government interests are trying to take over these lands. They want to build roads, they want to build railroads and tunnels and all this stuff. And we're protecting and supporting the conservation of these beautiful natural areas and the animals and the plants and the flora and fauna that live there and the mushrooms. So those are the three aspects of what I'm doing in Peru. And just by doing what I do, moving to Peru, I'm already the biggest breathwork teacher in Peru. Like I'm already hosting the biggest events, the most consistent events. And that feels good for my own significance and perhaps my ego. But again, it's simple market economics. Why would I go from a saturated marketplace to a place where it's fresh and it's new and people are just discovering it, and I can really use this crossover. It's like, oh, I'm not just somebody that learned it, a year ago, and I'm Peruvian. No, I've got this whole backing of experience, and then I'm coming back to my country, and I say, oh, everything that I've learned in the last 20 years, I can apply it here. And it's been really cool to pioneer what are pop-up events and ceremonies. 2 years ago, when I first arrived in Peru, I first started doing the events. I didn't see a lot of it. In fact, there were less studios. And now 2 years later, you got so many people doing pop-up, whether it's cacao ceremonies, breathwork, Kundalini yoga. They've got ecstatic dance and all these different things. But people are like, oh, they realized that, oh, this guy is like just came in hot and started doing events. Maybe I can do it too. And so more for everybody, and more experiences for people to connect and leave behind the old programming of like Catholic guilt and all that stuff.
I just got struck by when you said that. I just got struck by this when you just completed saying what you said, and it is like when I've been really like giving thought as like I go out to build the marketing, artist management agency that I'm building. And I got loud online, and I like started, there was like a week and a half period of time where I was like really aggressive online. And I'm like, man, I'm going to the one place that all the people like me go to try to find a client. Like, why don't I get out into the world where my clients are, where there's not a ton of me marketers, like, build talking about upgrading their websites and such. And over this last week, I've had a real shift in energy and business and all of that, because I'm like, oh man, I'm just gonna get really local. I'm gonna try to get really local out here in the world that I live and meet some of the people that I could be interacting with on a regular basis, instead of focusing my attention all online, that did something internally to me that years of this work, you know, Sal, has like it really stilled me inside.
Yeah, and then you get to bump shoulders with the real people that you're around, and it's much higher conversions. And you
I
really
just
feel
started
like you're,
working with a client it's been a week now, and she lives 20 minutes from me, and I'm like, man, a couple more clients that like live to that I could just meet with one, a couple times a month. Hey, how you doing? Good. Oh, give me a hug. Oh, that's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and you really feel
So,
like you're creating an, and that's, it doesn't become this like, um, we talked right before we started recording. It doesn't become this, oh, I'm just making noise and there's nobody on the other side to cheer me on. Like there is. You might run into somebody at the coffee shop, down the street from where you live, and just seeing them and maybe them telling you about your progress or everything else. It's like, ooh, that does cheer you on. That does make you feel good. And that hits those buttons that you want to be in. So I was just having a conversation with somebody at the Date with Destiny event with Tony Robbins, and she said, "Oh wow, like I love your social media," and she does like neurohacking, like habit stacking kind of stuff, and she's German and lives in Germany. And she's like how did you build your online presence? And I want to build webinars and coach people remotely. And I was like, where do you live? She's like, in the city, I'm near Stuttgart. And I was like, why don't you do local stuff? I told her this stuff is overrated. Like everybody's trying to do webinars, everybody's trying to do online courses. It's totally
so
saturated. But
overrated.
but if you go and I don't know, find a local yoga studio and rent it out for yoga studios rent out their space. I don't know, $70 an hour, whatever it is, 90 at the most, and just host a little pop up of like, hey, neurohacking to build new habits. And you might get 10 people show up, but out of those 10 people, they're much more likely to sign up with coaching with you than you running, $100 worth of ads and just spending 2 weeks recording an online course and producing it and getting all the graphics done. And then you're like, oh, I spent $500 producing this thing and now I have to try to sell it to the whole world. That's
It's not good.
real.
It's
That's
not the
that's like
best
it's like
math.
real. It's real. It's
Yeah.
like you're there and you're seeing people's faces. And I think the online space is fantastic, and everybody that sells online space always tells you, oh, but you can expand your reach and you can build your customers, have millions. So like, what if 1,000 people paid you $50 a month? Like that's $50,000 a month. um that's great, but that's like the 5% of everybody that does it. And ultimately business, some of the most successful businesses as you've seen are like in the trades or things that are people wouldn't even think to do. I knew this guy who didn't finish high school. You meet him, he's like a dude's dude, likes the Patriots, likes to drink beer. He's a little bit chubby, but he cashed out like 30-40 million dollars of a sprinkler business. How? Because he lived in a small town, noticed that there was nobody doing it, and he said, hey, I'm going to learn to install sprinklers. And guess what? Every new building needs a new sprinkler system.
Yeah. That's a good it's a good role. Yeah. I'm very, very excited that we get to connect in this place. I'm the clarity that you have around your mission and getting people back to the land. I mean, it's just so beautiful. You've been called so specifically back to where you left, your family left to come over here, and you're going back home. That's where you were called to go. It's a really beautiful story, Sal.
Thank you. There's something so that's so fulfilling about really going back to where your roots are. Um, I decided to move to Peru when I was 28. I'm 30 now, and it was after 2.5 years of nomadic living. I would go to California, do some pop-ups for a couple months, and then go to Europe, do a couple of events, Florida, and then I'd go to Peru. And I said, okay, I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and it's starting to get a little bit old. And as I'm approaching 30, I really feel like I need some stability to be able to grow. And guess what gives you stability to grow? Roots. So I said, where are my roots? South Florida? Yes. My family's here. And it feels like home because my buddies are here. I went to school here. But those aren't my deep, deep roots. Like you can't build roots in Florida. There's water like 10 feet under the ground. So I said, come back to Peru. Whoa, I feel very grounded. And guess what? The cost of living is a lot lower. The quality of life, just as good, if not better, because the food's better. I feel stable. Now I can expand. Now I can grow taller. Not just do the same thing over and over again, running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I can look at other aspects, other ways to grow the business, and perhaps grow other businesses, because again, it's an expanding market. Peru has the most stable currency in all of Latin America.
I have to share this analogy, this reference, if you will, of AI music. It came up in conversation that I just had with this man, Michael, who's the lead guitarist of a band called Annie in the Water. And we were talking about, I read something the day that I interviewed him, and it was 50,000 AI songs are being uploaded to the internet or to Spotify every day. 50,000. And so everybody is freaking out because music is ruined and concerts are ruined and da 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 da. Like you could freak out, or you could look at it like this. The individual who goes all in on every fan and views that fan as a human and really starts to get to know those people and really starts to build community is going to win long term. If you look at what the Grateful Dead did, I mean, they're still selling out this sphere based off of that community that they built. And not to say that it's the best or the worst, I don't know. But building community, no matter where you are, is the recipe to win. And I'm really, really excited to see you winning and looking forward. Well, I'm hoping, unless I get a translator, I'm hoping that you will do some more English breath retreats, because I'm looking forward to doing some breath work with you.
I would love to host you in Peru, brother. What I am doing is I'm receiving people in Peru. So if you want to come, and
Megan and I want to come. I tell Megan,
yeah.
Peru,
So if you want to come, hike the Inca Trail and go to Machu Picchu, and then around that you want to go drink ayahuasca or drink San Pedro mescaline, and you're like, I don't know where to start looking, or I don't want to end up in the jungle, throwing my brains out in some ditch. I can help you plan that trip. Send you to the right shamans in the right places. Yeah. So like a spiritual travel agent, if you will.
I like that. I wonder if there has to be a market for it. If not,
that would be a new business that I can build in English. I'll do that. Let's do that one.
You should, because I would be surprised if you didn't get inquiries from this episode from what you just said. So, Sal, so grateful to have you on the podcast and to get your story and to hear where you've progressed to. Is just really, really beautiful, man. I'm grateful for your friendship and to continue to know you on this path.
I'm so grateful that you asked me to do this. I'm not going to say finally, because it was all in perfect timing, and I'd love to watch your own journey, man, to watch your family grow, and I love to know you, and I appreciate your support always, and thank you sincerely.
Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Chasers podcast. If today's episode hit home, don't just listen, engage. Follow me on Spotify, drop a review, and join the conversation over on YouTube at The Purpose Chasers, or on Instagram at Organic Nerd Word. This is more than a podcast, it's a movement. And if you're here, you're already part of it. Remember, no amount of darkness can keep someone who's been called. So keep chasing, keep building, and keep standing in your purpose. I'm Mark Crandall, signing off until next time. Let's get it.